Hello and welcome to the inaugural Sports Zone here on ShawTV. I'm Tali Campbell here at Frank Crane Arena. We're joined by the voice of the Nanaimo Clippers from 106.9 The Wolf, Dan Marshall. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So the Nanaimo Clippers just finished up their regular season with a loss to West Kelowna Warriors 3-2, but a much more impressive season on behalf of Mike Vandekamp. Why is that?
I think time to build the program and to put the players in place that he wanted. This is not just Mike Vandekamp's best season, but the best Nanaimo Clippers season since 2007-2008. A second place finish, home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs. So lots of things have changed here in Nanaimo. And you look at a guy that was their leading scorer in the regular season, Greg Fraser, a guy that Mike Vandekamp brought into this program. He's really put his stamp on it, bringing in his types of guys from a lot of his hockey hotbeds, whether it be from Ontario, whether it be from Alberta, and some good talent from Vancouver Island this year as well. We just saw in Nanaimo's last game. They're all in the Nanaimo third line with Taylor Grabowski, Brendan Forbes, and Brendan Taylor. So these are all good signs for the Clippers. It's a strong local presence. It's an improving hockey club right now, and hopefully the franchise on even more solid footing after a Western Canada Cup that's coming.
So talk about, the key players, Fraser, Fitzgerald, Kramer, some more are leaving this year. What does that do to this team?
Well, it's junior hockey, and every year turnover and change is inevitable. It's not like some of the teams in the pros where you can watch the same guy for years and years and years. Kyle Kramer just leaves after 4 straight years with the Clippers. That's so rare nowadays. It's more like Reed Suros. He's more the norm, a guy that comes in for 1 year, a great year, and then he leaves and he heads on to college. So you've got Kyle Kramer, the heart and soul of this organization for so many years, the captain in Trevor Fitzgerald, Reed Suros, Greg Fraser, the team's leading scorer this year, Brock Maschmeyer, he's been here for a short time, but what a difference maker he's been, a local guy that came home to finish his career in Brendan Forbes. What you lose with those guys so much is character, first and foremost, and especially with the likes of Kramer, 30 goals, Suros, 8-game winners, and Fraser, 59 points to lead the team. You get the heart of their offense, too. There's going to be a lot of change, but then you look who could be the next ones coming up. Well, Matt Grant has another year. Michael McNicholas was so good before he got injured. He's eligible to come back for next season's Nanaimo Clifford team. Corey Renwick is a young guy that's going to make an impact. Brendan Taylor is going to move up. So it's not as though the cupboard is completely bare. It's just there's going to be a lot of turnover.
Definitely, and looking at that, Mike, of course, looking towards the future. Sebastian Ore from Alberta, 5'9", 165 pounds, 3 Caribou Cougars from the BC Major Midget League. Stephen Penner, a defenseman. Ryan Forbes, a goaltender. Just recently, Garrett Dunlop from the Nanaimo Buccaneers. Mike seems to look after some bigger guys, though. Is that true? Well,
he loves those bigger guys. Look at their defense core. Went out and got Nick Gushu, well over 6 feet. Chris Ragus, well over 6 feet. Colton Dolan's one of the more diminutive guys, and he's about 6 feet, maybe 5'11". Josh Bryan just over 6 feet. So, yeah, Mike likes those guys, especially on the back that are bigger guys. Up front, he likes to have a mix of both guys. He likes to have his Greg Fraser types that can be that prototypical two-way, large, defensive, responsible, but also offensive centerman. Then you've got a guy like a Brendan Taylor, who's a smaller, more skilled guy. So I think you'll see probably the same mix. The defense will be big and tall and tough, and the forwards will be more of that mix of skill and grit at the same time.
Now, of course, the Nanaimo Clippers are taking the Port Alberni Valley Bulldogs in the first round of playoffs. This is not a 7 series, it was a 5 series. Why is that, Dan?
A very strange playoff format this year. What they've done is, instead of having 2 conferences, as we've seen the last few years, now it's 3 divisions, and 2 of these divisions are going to play into 1 conference. The interior is just going to go straight through. So what you end up with, best of 7s in the interior, but only 3 rounds. 2 best of 5s, then a best of 7 in the coast before we get to the league final. A strange situation, but traditional rivalries are back. Last year in the first round of the playoffs in the coast, it was Coquitlam against Powell River. Not much tradition there. It was Surrey against Cowichan Valley. That was a great series, but not much tradition there. Now you've got Victoria playing Powell River, a long history there. Nanaimo Alberni, a great history with those 2 clubs, and the mainland division matchups, except for the weird one in Prince George Chilliwack, but the other one in Surrey Langley. That's a great matchup too, in terms of geography, getting fans to go back and forth between the 2 rinks. And I think those traditional rivalries, those regional rivalries are going to be so good, and the potential, of course, for 2 rounds of that, especially with these Island Division playoffs. I like what they've done. I don't like that it's not balanced. The interior conference goes best of 7 all the way through, 1 fewer round. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So next year, I think the playoffs might be different again.
So speaking about the the rivalry teams, Alberni Valley and the Clippers have butted heads the entire season. What kind of series should we expect here?
Well, up until the game on Friday night, and it was the second to last game of the regular season for both teams. The margin of victory had always been 2 goals or more. So one team would play well, one team would kind of fall off a little bit. Both teams have had success in the other's building. So I think that bodes for a long series. If the Bulldogs can get 4 goals plus in a game, they'll win this series if they can get those types of offensive games going. Nanaimo doesn't want to play 5-4, 6-5 games. The Bulldogs don't mind. If the games are tight and low scoring, if they're 2-1, 3-2 type of games, the Clippers will win this series. It's offense against defense. The goaltending, kind of a saw-off when you look at the way it's been, although the wild card for the Clippers, they have 2 goalies that could both play in game 1. J.D.O. is the man for Alberni Valley. We know that. So the Clippers have a bit of a wild card there with their goaltending situation and injuries. Will the Clippers have Michael McNicholas back? He's very close to returning. Will the Bulldogs be a healthy team heading into the postseason? Health always plays such a big factor too.
Absolutely, and speaking about tradition for the playoffs, it is a playoff beard. Do reporters do that?
I've done it in the past. The one thing that has changed now is, and the kids can do it, but the older guys like me can't, is a lot of the teams will go blonde now for the postseason.
Not going blonde?
And I don't go blonde well. Now the playoff beards, I've done it sometimes, and other times I haven't, because when you go as deep as the Clippers are hoping to go, it gets itchy, and you can have some social engagements that get a little awkward. It can certainly change your social life quite a bit. So this year I'm thinking probably no playoff beard, but I could be convinced into it at the same time.
Absolutely. Now, rumor on the street is that Ken Wagner, part owner of the Nanaimo Clippers, has been speaking to and has a meeting mid-March with an owner of the Victoria Royals WHL team in Victoria, of course, in the Save on Foods Memorial Center. Can you confirm this rumor?
Well, I can't confirm that rumor, but here's what we do know here in Nanaimo. There's too much talk about the Western Hockey League in the Harbor City for you to not think that something's going on. The city has acknowledged that, yes, there have been talks, not just with the Western Hockey League, but also with RG Properties, the group that built the arena in Victoria. The Western Hockey League wants Nanaimo as a market, and I think that's where this is coming from. I think, to be quite honest, I think right now the Western Hockey League wants Nanaimo, maybe even more than Nanaimo wants the Western Hockey League. There's one team in Victoria, but teams can't get off the island after playing the Victoria Royals. They'd love to be able to have 2 games, maybe have a 3-game set with 2 teams, maybe even have a nighttime game and get on a 10:45 ferry at Duke Point. It would certainly save on hotel costs. It would make that island trip much more palatable for some big owners that have a lot of clout in the Western Hockey League. Could you see the Nanaimo Clippers ownership group, Ken Wagner and his people, getting involved in that one day? Sure you could. The money's most definitely there. There's a certain prestige level to the Western Hockey League that I think is attractive, not just for Ken Wagner, but for John Rattan and for the city of Nanaimo too. What does it mean for the Clippers? I don't know. Is this imminent? I don't think so, but I think down the road you're going to hear more and more talk about the Western Hockey League in Nanaimo, potentially even with the Nanaimo Clippers current ownership group. Interesting.
Now moving on, the Nanaimo Buccaneers had what most would call a fantastic inaugural season. First in their division, the VIJHL North Division. Coach Brad Knight got Coach of the Year. Garrett Dunlop got Rookie of the Year, Most Disciplined Team, swept the Kerry Park Islanders first round, now commanding lead 2-1 against the Glacier Kings. Not a bad first season, eh?
What a season. To finish first in your division as an expansion team, to have a player like a Garrett Dunlop, a Rookie of the Year, a guy that we now know is going to be a junior A in the Nanaimo Clipper for next season, to win their first ever playoff series in a sweep, and as we're talking now, in a tooth and nail battle in their second round with the Comox Valley Glacier Kings. What a job these guys have done. You referenced Brad Knight, what a job he's done as a coach. 3 teams in the Nanaimo for young men to play on. You've got the Silvertips, you've got the Buccaneers, you've got the Clippers, and right now you've got 2 of those teams, the Clippers and the Buccaneers, that are going into playoffs. The Buccaneers have already made it a longer run. The Clippers hoping to do the same thing. Junior hockey certainly alive and well, and we've just been talking about the Western Hockey League on top of that, so what a time to be involved in hockey in the Nanaimo right now.
Absolutely, and you got to speak about a junior team in Nanaimo. What does it do to the Nanaimo Clippers?
Well, so far I think it's been very good. You look at the relationship with affiliates that the Clippers have had with the Buccaneers, and that's been strong. The Buccaneers have picked that Thursday night home date, a night that the Nanaimo Clippers never play on, so there hasn't been that battle for the 2 teams when it comes to fans. I think they have different fans, but also I'm surprised that some of the same fans are making it out to see the Buccaneers and the Clippers play. So it's been a good coexistence situation so far. That could change, but I do think the ownership on both sides, there's a lot of respect mutually. There's a lot of people that are volunteers that work with both hockey clubs, so I think that's been strong for both sides. Hopefully that continues.
Now we're going to move on now to the Nanaimo Timbermen, who who, although their season has not started yet, they're shaking up things in Nanaimo. You know, of course, the firing all three head coaches for the junior A Timbermen. Art Webster, the head coach, leaves the senior A Timbermen. They then get in Brad Dugan after the assistant A coach, who was the senior A assistant coach, rather, sorry. And then, of course, you just heard the hiring of Caleb Toth as a head coach. Scott Ranger gets traded to the Victoria Shamrocks. So much to talk about. Let's start with first Caleb Toth. Is that a good decision or a bad decision?
Great decision for the Nanaimo Timbermen, a guy that's part of this organization really from day one, an 8-year player here, knows the city, is relocating his family here full-time to be a part of it, a guy that's won at the highest levels, whether it's the National Lacrosse League, he's won Man Cups before, he's won an indoor championship, a Minto Cup, he's a proven winner as a player. Now, it's not going to happen that this year Caleb Toth is the difference maker for this team, and all of a sudden you're going to be talking about him like a Les Bartley, a legendary coach from the Toronto Rock in the National Lacrosse League. That's not going to happen in year one, but Caleb's got the right mindset, he's got the right credentials, and this is going to be a young team. I'm sure we'll talk about Scott Ranger in a moment, but it's a young team that's going to need guidance of a guy that's been there, a guy that players will respect because he went to war with them as soon as last season. So I like this. Maybe this year it's not going to be the ultimate difference, but if Caleb Toth can stay in that role and help to bring this young team along, I think it's going to start to pay dividends.
So of course, as we said, pretty much the face of the Nanaimo Senior Timbermen, Scott Ranger requested the trade off to the Victoria Shamrocks in return Kyle Dexter, Jake Ems, and 2 draft picks. Like I said, a man who, the guidance for these young guys like Adam Bacular-Evans, Marino Best, Paul Breber, all those guys who are coming up now. Someone referred to this as the Edmonton Oilers team. Could you say that, a building team?
Well, that's what the hope is that there's so many young players that are coming into the Senior A fold that this is going to be a team that plays an exciting brand. I do think this, without Scott Ranger here in Nanaimo, that more guys are going to have an opportunity to shine. Scott is a legitimate MVP player, one of the best players in the Western Lacrosse Association, and he's been so fun to watch for so many years. But having him gone, you can't just say that it's going to be get the ball to Ranger, get the ball to Ranger. The ball is going to have to move all over the place. There's going to be a lot of pressure on guys right now like Corey Conway, assuming that he's back in the fold this year. Rookie of the Year Cody Bremner, he's going to have to be a guy that carries a lot of the load. I hope there's not too much undue pressure on guys like Dexter and Ems because they were the guys traded for Scott Ranger. That's unfair to put it on those guys. Paul Breber, a young guy that has played well with the Junior A Timbermen, coming up, he's going to be a part of this team right now. Earl Nicholson's going to have some surprises too, but within those surprises, it's all going to be younger guys that are hungry, guys that want to make a difference, and guys that will hopefully by committee get better. And if the team can come together and be a strong team, maybe they can push for that final playoff spot. It's been eluding Nanaimo, even with Scott Ranger there as the MVP of the league, the leading scorer. But if they can find a way to bring all those guys together under the guidance of Caleb Toth, if maybe the sum of all these guys together, the sum of the parts is making a greater whole, then that would be a great thing for Nanaimo lacrosse fans. But this is a team that's not going to be looking at first place. They're not going to be looking at home floor in the first round of the playoffs. They're going to be once again battling to get in. And for Nanaimo lacrosse fans, let's hope this maybe can be the year. Only one playoff appearance since they came back to the league in 05.
Now, of course, looking at Junior A Timbermen, of course, Brad Dugan, the new head coach, Ken Morrison, the assistant coach. Are you seeing much change there, or is it more of the same?
Well, let's hope that we're seeing a real big boost forward. It's a group under a new head coach, Ken Morrison, a great player, a great Senior B player in the Nanaimo. Brad Dugan knows a lot of the players he's got from the intermediate days. And let's hope, I don't know a lot about the kids that they've acquired in the draft, but let's hope that those guys change the culture. Let's hope that some of the guys that are returning players have learned some lessons from a real tough season last year, and they're real hungry. The Junior A League is a tough league. There's some great teams in the Lower Mainland as well right now. Stability is what I hope for. I hope that Brad Dugan and Ken Morrison are here for a while to really lead this team and try and bring it back where it was a couple of years ago when the likes of Cody Bremner were starring for that Junior A lacrosse club, and they really started to put a push on. We've seen now the team maybe going in the wrong direction. Let's hope it can make its way back up.
Definitely, and we're going to have a lot more conversation about the Timbermen. You know, the season's still a month away for the junior guys anyways. We'd like to make a quick notice of the North Island Silvertips, however, made the playoffs, which was good. However, they were eliminated in the first round against the Northwest Giants. We'll talk more about them. I got a sit-down interview next week on the Sports Zone with Jason, the head coach. Thank you, Dan, for appearing in the inaugural Sports Zone.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Of course, catch all of Dan's Clippers broadcasts on 106.9 The Wolf. For Sports Zone, I'm Tali Campbell. Have yourself a fantastic night.